Hello and welcome to Chicago State University's Black Media and Entertainment Industry Conference. This four-day event is sponsored by the Department of Communications, Media, Arts, and Theater here at Chicago State University. For access to the conference program, please go to csu.edu/CMAT and click on events. I'm Derek Dow, full-time lecturer in digital media in the Department of Communications, Media, Arts, and Theater here at Chicago State University. I'm pleased to be here today with the director of the Chicago Film Office, Kwame Amoaku, and the executive director of Cinecares Foundation, Sheila Brown. Man, let me just go ahead and just get ready to list some of these great accomplishments. Kwame Amoaku is the director of the Chicago Film Office, but is also a multi-talented professional. He has specialties in budgeting, production managing, location scouting, assistant directing, and film directing, just like a jack of all trades. And Miss Sheila Brown, while at the Cinecares Foundation, she has developed the Mecopoulos Internship program. The program allows young adults from traditionally underserved communities with little to no experience to obtain paid job training opportunities on network television shows. She's had interns on shows like Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, The Chi, and the list goes on. She's been such a great asset to not only Chicago, but to Chicago State students as well. Thank you guys. Did I murder the name of that? Is it, did I say it right?
You absolutely did. And you're the only person that have never asked me to say it and say it right. So good job.
Thank you. I did it. Yes. There you go. Professor Dow for the win. All right.
There you go.
Welcome, guys. We appreciate you giving your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I want to start off with how I like to start. Where you from and how did you start? Ladies first.
I'll follow you, Kwame.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. It's 2021.
Absolutely.
I'm born and raised here in the city of Chicago on the South Side. Went to South Shore High School. While I was at South Shore, I took a photography class in my junior year. And I would say that class kind of changed the trajectory of my entire life at that point. Just getting into photography and the art form of it. And that love of photography transformed into a love of motion. And that took me to Southern Illinois University, where I majored in cinematography. And then I came back here to the city, worked as a still photographer for some magazines and newspapers until I got my first break as a production assistant on a music video for an artist who, at this point, I have no idea who this person, I can't even remember who it was at this point, but it opened up the door for me to work as a production assistant on various projects, commercials, television shows, etc. And I just kind of worked my way through the ranks of production here in the city of Chicago, working as a production assistant. But then as you were naming all these other jobs, these are just, hustles that you have to do when, you're in a small market like the city of Chicago, and especially when you're a person of color and there's not a lot of options. So you have to try to make as many options as you can for yourself. So I worked as a production assistant, production coordinator, production manager, producer, and finally as a director on some projects. So just, moving through the ranks of production and about 25 years here in the city and really all over the country working in production. And just, had the opportunity to move into the city as a public servant and try to take what I've learned, throughout this time and make the city a better place for production and for creative infrastructure, not, for everybody, and so that everyone can enjoy the benefits of this boom that we're having in film production.
Nice.
And I'm Sheila Brown. I am a West Sider. And I was born and raised here in Chicago. And like Kwame, and I didn't know that about you, Kwame, as a child, I wanted to be a photographer. And I'm going to date myself here, but my mother had bought me that camera with the flash bar on top. And I was running around blinding everybody. I was like, yes, this is the job. This is what I'm going to be doing. And I really thought that I wanted to be a still photographer, but I got my first job in corporate in the Tribune in one of their circulation offices, and then started down the business track. And then when I graduated, because I got my first job at 15 by lying about my age to say that I was 16, and then decided that I wanted to go into television production. But because I was working at a company that was going to pay for tuition reimbursement, and they were a manufacturing company, they said, we won't reimburse for television production. So I switched over to marketing and communication and headed off to Columbia College after taking what we now call a gap year. Back then, I just didn't go to school the year after I graduated. Yeah, shade to say a gap year, but I didn't go to school the year I graduated. And then the following year, I went down to Columbia College. And when I was in my second year of school, I randomly sent my resume out to television stations saying, I'm just going to make this happen. All they have to do is meet me. They'll hire me. And actually sent my resume out, went on vacation, came back and had a phone call from a local cable station that was airing the Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox, Sports Channel Chicago. And so I took a job in there as a production assistant and knew that I wanted to get across the hall in the production department, but had to start in programming, worked my way over to the production department, was the production coordinator. And then out of the blue, after having been the production coordinator, there was a mishap at the station done by the production manager. And they came to me and said, hey, do you think you could be the production manager? And I said, absolutely. And literally moved from the cubicle outside of the corner office into the corner office and closed the door and said, buckle in, you got to do this now, because my mouth gets me into a lot of situations that I then have to prove, but I never failed. And so I got in there and did that, was in production for 6 years there at the station, and then left and started my own company, Freedom Entertainment. And to Kwame's point, you know, I did some of everything. I was a road manager in music. I was producing NBA All-Star games for the NBA directly. And I worked mostly in sports production and so forth, off doing celebrity golf for the Golf Channel and so forth. And fast forward 20 years, and then I was like, okay, now I'm tired of doing all of that, and subsequently was introduced to the president of Cinespace Chicago Film Studios. And we were just kindred spirits from the moment that we met. And in 2016, I told him, I'm tired. You know, I've been traveling and stuff for 20 years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. He said, come into Cinecares, which is the foundation that the family started in honor of Nick Mecopoulos. And I came in there in 2016, 2017, got rolling on the Mecopoulos internship program, and have just been going ever since, marrying my passion for reaching back and making sure everybody gets an equal chance, as I say, going from marginalized to mainstream. And got to work with Kwame at the time. He was with Chicago Fire, and he kept saying, sis, every time I'm out in the communities, people ask me, how do I get into this business and so forth. And so he was a strong supporter from day one. And now he's over as my colleague running the film office. And we're just doing our best with trying to create avenues and help this industry become both highly skilled and diverse, which can be the same thing. They're not mutually exclusive. You know? Right. Highly skilled and diverse workforce.
I love it. I love it. Diversity is a big thing right now. And I mean, a lot of people are adapting it. Even I got my master's at USC, and they finally have a diversity program now. Even I got my agent through a diversity program at NBC. How has diversity in the scope of these programs changed within Chicago? Because, you know, when I was growing up, they're like, if you want to make it, you have to leave. Is that even a thing now? And that's for both of you guys, whoever wants to know.
I personally don't think that you have to leave now. for those that aren't aware, Cinespace Chicago Film Studio is the second largest studio in North America, and it's right here, you know, in Chicago. And as Kwame knows from doing both motion pictures and television production, he was around when he called it. He said Chicago was so small. We don't really express ourselves in that term anymore. You know, he's in a job that is expanding Chicago, and we have 50 some odd stages at Cinespace, soon to be 61 stages when we develop our last round of stages within Cinespace in North Lawndale and Little Village. And there's, I mean, we're past pre-pandemic levels, you know, and there's so much production going on in this city. And so you're absolutely right, Professor Dow, that even back when I was going to school, people said, oh, then you graduate and you had to either coast, you know, East Coast or West Coast, mainly the West Coast, you're right, they talked about, but had to either coast to make it. And now I call us the mid-coast. I'm like, we are doing it right here in the Midwest, you know, where we're giving those opportunities. Kwame can talk about the level of production in Chicago that is unmatched for any other period of time, you know, here in Chicago.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Sheila. I mean, we're definitely in a boom time for film production here. So the opportunities exist for film production, and just speaking on diversity specifically, it just makes financial sense for these entities, these corporate entities, to invest in diversity. One, I want to point to the tax credit for the state of Illinois, which has in it a clause that as a bonus to the tax credit for, you know, attempting to employ people from underserved areas, and, you know, adding that to the crew. That is a financial incentive for people to seek diversity in their crews. We also have content creators, diverse content creators, who are purposely wanting diverse crews and coming to Chicago because they know that the resources for diversity are there. You know, you have a Jordan Peele or a Lena Waithe who specifically requests that their crews are diverse. And that's also driving it. So, you know, I just want to, there's an example I just want to throw out real quickly. There was in my locations department in Chicago Fire, the young woman that was my coordinator was, you know, she's basically the person that handles all of the paperwork and coordinates all the accounting of my office. She basically was the glue that kept my office together. Well, you know, I knew also that she had the ability to write, and she got an opportunity to pass along a spec script to a producer on the show who loved that script. And now Ashley is a staff writer on the show. And, you know, initially, you know, one could say that it was, you know, as diversity becomes a popular thing, you know, this is a thing that was done to, you know, make diversity. But as Ashley began to work, they saw that because she had been around the show for so long, she had such a unique perspective on the show and an intimate knowledge of the show in ways that a lot of people didn't have. And so she proved to be an invaluable asset. And that's also something that these corporations are starting to discover, that, you know, there's an asset to having diversity in all levels of your production. It brings a value to it, mainly because a lot of diverse, you know, eyeballs are looking at the content. So it just makes, you know, economic sense for them to invest in diversity. So it's you know, it's a socially relevant topic that, you know, companies are embracing, but also it's definitely a business decision that they're making.
It is, and I think that they make that decision across all sectors of business, not just entertainment. But Kwame, I was saying recently, when we started our program in 2017, we started placing folks from the west and south sides of Chicago into production on NBC. Was our first pilot, and partner in the pilot. And they came in and said, not only do we want to support this, we'll underwrite it. And it was out of a real desire to diversify, but also to give back to the community from where the studio was. But I now say to those partners that came in, the NBC, Foxes, and the labor unions here in Chicago, aren't we glad that we did this organically when we wanted to and had the opportunity before all of the spotlight started coming on everyone over this last year of obvious social justice reform every place, and then you don't have to run and say, oh, what can we do? Because a lot of people are doing that. We were already doing that, in Chicago because it's the right thing to do. So I agree with Kwame that I love Ashley's story. And, somebody might say, well, they just gave her that opportunity because they wanted, to give a person of color an opportunity. I remember once hearing Oprah Winfrey say that, she wasn't some model looking woman when she got her first job on television out on the East Coast and so forth. And people would say to her, you're a token, you're just a person that they wanted to put in that position. And she said, that's okay, because no matter how I got in there, it's what I do with the opportunity that matters. And so when she went and started getting in syndication and owning her own, production company and owning her syndication rights and everything, then she could thumb her nose at the person that said that you were only, a token, because by hook or crook, whichever way I get the opportunity to get in there, I'm in there. And as long as I arrive at that opportunity, as Ashley did, ready to do it, then somebody might see that, but that's quickly going to fall away when they see, in Ashley's case, my writing skills and know that I deserve to be a person at the table.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. What would you say to, let's say, more indie artists, right? Because I talk to a lot of independent artists because I am in the SAG. So they're like, oh, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, but can you go through the union? And they're so scared of that paperwork. And I know SAG is pretty lenient when it comes to, getting stuff done if you have all your boxes checked. How is it going through the film office if it was a smaller production?
We handle everything from student films to Batman. So we're built to deal with independent production. We have a reduced rate for permits for independent production. We give the same attention to independent production that we give to a major production, as far as providing city resources and making sure that you have what you need as far as the city's concerned. And we at the film office, we have a program called the Independent Film Initiative, because for us, building the creative infrastructure for the city of Chicago, where the intellectual property is being created here, it's being produced here, it's being post-produced here, that's the economy that we want to grow, because that doesn't rely on somebody bringing a project from either coast, right? Because we're generating the work. So it's important to us to support independent filmmakers in every way we can. And, we encourage, people in minorities and diversity in this market, especially. I always say, I'm saying this all the time, is, you don't ask for a seat at the table, you have to build your own table. And getting control of that intellectual property and determining where the writer's room is going to be and where production is going to be, that's going to come from the independent production here in the city of Chicago. And Chicago Film Office and the state of Illinois Film Office are definitely in support of that.
I love that.
They are. And from the studio side, people see us, and of course we have the Lion Gates and the AMC, NBC, and so forth. But we have 2 tracks running, at the studio. So you have the studio there, but the studio owners were behind founding 2 nonprofits. One, Cinecares, that deals with, I work with all of the network shows and big producers and so forth that are coming on. But then the president of the studio, Alex Picios, also helped found with a producer, Angie Gaffney, what was once Stage 18 that some may know, and now recently became the Illinois Film Alliance. And they focus on exactly what you're speaking of building creatives and productions and so forth here in Chicago, because God forbid one day something happens and some of those networks and stuff stop coming to Chicago. We want to have organically brought up all of this talent that is present right here in this market, to actually fill that gap, because that's the ultimate goal, is to build our own source where people don't have to come in from LA. And I tell people all the time, as far as diverse creatives, there is no time like the present to do that. Kwame and I both have been around 25, 30 years. And I know we look young and people probably don't, believe that, but we have been around, that long. I started in television production at 22. So we've been around a very long time. And now there's so many, between networks and streaming services and YouTube and just some of everything that's out there. There's so much content that you can create. And I've been able to pop into some of the conversations that you've been having over the last several days. And I see people saying that, don't wait, as Kwame said, don't wait for the seat at the table. Build your own table, go out there and do your own work and so forth. And just be ready and prepared. If you say you want that, be ready and prepared to meet that opportunity when it comes your way. But nothing's holding you back from starting that path. Getting into network television, yes, that's a whole thing. That's why we create opportunities like the Mecopoulos Internship Program and the work that the city of Chicago is doing for trying to get folks of color, into the industry. But they have so much control now, as students and as content creators and creatives in general, that you don't have to wait for them to call you while you're on vacation like I did, back in 1991, to get an opportunity. You, in fact, can start that opportunity yourself.
I love that. To speak on, your program, your internship, what do you look for? What do you look for? So when students out here, what do you look for?
We look for, and we work through community partners and people who we trust that understand the magnitude of the opportunity. You mentioned that you all have put through some folks through our program, Armani Winston and Rhonda Nunn and Miranda and so forth. Marlon's there now. We have wonderful people that come through where we don't require you to have a college degree. We don't require you to have any experience in television production at all. But what we do require you to have is a hustle. We require you to have the ability to work with all types of people and under pressure, and in a very fast-paced environment, someone that can work independent and you don't have to micromanage them, someone that pays attention and learn at, a fairly quick pace, because our interns, when they come into our program, they're coming into a 24-week internship program. So you're talking 6 months of working 60 hours a week. They work 5 12-hour days per week. That is not for the faint of heart. We all think we want it, but I'm going to tell you, I done heard some stories of people trying to get adjusted to doing that, just in life, physically, everything, and getting ready for that. But when you come in and this is what you want, this isn't the type of opportunity where people come in and say, well, I'll see if I like it. And if I don't, I'll move on. Those aren't the people we're looking for. We don't have that many opportunities when you consider the full scale of what's happening in Chicago. So we make sure we dig deep enough to find the people that come, hook or crook, like I said before. I'm going to get to the end of those 24 weeks. And guess what, Professor Dow? They get to the end of the 24 weeks and they say, you all are crazy. There's no way I want to do this forever in life and be crazy like Kwame, because I'm not crazy, but, be crazy like Kwame, then, I'm okay with that, because guess what? They got into the room, they looked around, and they got a chance to decide that on their own without wondering how, and why, and what if, they've been there, so they can make that decision. But I can tell you, I was looking at the numbers for an article I did the other day, and in the 5 cohorts that we've put through, we put 58 people through training on Chicago PD, Fire, Med, and Empire. Now they're on Power and 61st Street as well. We've put 58 of them through. 52 of them have finished successfully, meaning that they got to the end of their internship period and that people want to work with them and understand that they're hard workers and so forth. So that's a 90% success rate. And each one of them that are wanting to continue to work in this business are working in this business. Over 80% of them are working full seasons on these shows. Over 60% of them that trained for union jobs are working as union apprentices now, working their way to be journeymen and so forth. So it's a great payoff. I tell you, I've been in the business 30 years and I've not worked on a Dick Wolf production. I've not worked on the Lee Daniels, Michael B. Jordan production and so forth. So to have that opportunity as one of your first entrees into the business is fantastic, but you better be ready for it.
Yeah, I can say, word of mouth, Dr. Liz and other students, they're so excited for all that you've done for the students from Chicago State University that's made it into your program. So thank you for that.
And they came ready. Listen, we opened the door, but they came in and worked their tails off. And I'll go to bat for anybody. When you talk about how we have the industry, we learned that, when I started the internship program, I thought, well, I'll get them in my lane, which is to give them some access and some training. We have to earn while we learn in our community. We don't get a chance to just run off and find ourselves. So while we're earning, while we're learning, we're doing that. And then I'll pass them off to the ecosystem of the business and they'll be able to find opportunities. And I quickly learned after that first cohort that that's not quite the way it's going to work because they don't know anyone beyond what we did with them, in the business. So I had to back up and say, okay, now I need to build that bridge to the ecosystem. So we started to work with anybody from the theaters, advertising agencies, other productions that are off our campus and so forth. And we've really made this wonderful situation where we're housed at Cinespace, but we work all around the state with whomever is coming in that want to do something, because it's more important for us to have the opportunities be there than to say that they're running around our lot, which many of them love to be doing. So
I love it. Derek Lyons asked, how do you apply for this internship?
Talk to Dr. List.
Talk to Dr. List. There it is.
There you go.
This is a really good question I want to bring in from Kenneth Jackson. He said, at what point did you all realize that you were manifesting the lives you wanted?
I don't know. I mean, I think, just for me coming into the business and just being able to work with, major names and people that are real, true, artists of the craft and, doing scenes with, Mel Gibson or Keanu Reeves or whatever, Anthony Anderson or working on productions like Wanted. It just, you kind of really feel like I'm doing this, like I'm a part of something that's bigger than I am and a part of a community. That's huge. And an art form, when you really start to recognize how incredible the art form of filmmaking is, and looking at how it's this wonderful symphony of all these different craftspeople coming together to do this one thing. So, just working as a producer and a director and sometimes being the conductor of that orchestra, just, that's what really confirmed it for me.
And I think for me, I have been very blessed and very fortunate. As I mentioned, at 22, I was in production, came in, to sports when the Bulls were winning championships. I mean, like, who gets that opportunity, to do that? And then to segue that into owning my own company and doing everything from running a television compound for the Democratic National Convention to being in the studio with P. Diddy and Mary J. Blige and my friend Sparkle, who's from Chicago, who I was road managing for, and so forth, to be able to dance around and do, I used to say, I run with the millionaires and billionaires. Then I had to stop and say, of which I'm neither. So what is going on here? So I had to really step back and say, I'm having a ball. I've worked with Maroon 5 and Katy Perry and all this great stuff. stuff, but they have their lives and they're doing what they want to do. And I'm making, events and television productions and so forth around them. But I always knew internally there's something more that I wanted to accomplish, which is why when I decided I was approaching 20 years of having my own production company, just come back from London doing something with Calvin Harris. And I was like, you know what, that's fun, but I can't name one thing that I haven't done that I still yearn to do with my own company and so forth. But one thing that never died within me is how can I just make an impact, because it's not about building a legacy or anything like that. It's about how do you leave something better than how you found it? And so when I was driving to the studio to talk to Alex about what we might be doing together, I honestly said, Kwame and Professor Dow, I can go in there. Maybe he wants me to work with him and Dick Wolf. Yeah, I could do that. Maybe he wants me to put some big events on, all that great stuff. The only thing I didn't want him to talk to me about was the foundation, because I saw that as raising money and how can I make an impact that way and so forth. And as soon as I sat down, he said, let's talk about Cinecares. And I had to fix my face and then sit there for a second and say, well, what does he want to talk about? And he started talking about Uncle Nick Mecopoulos, who was an advocate for the underdog and who said, you're coming into this community, you have to make it rise when the industry rise and so forth. And I remember driving home that day and saying, this might be the opportunity. This might be the time where I can actually use the currency that I've built up by being a hard worker through the years and making a good name for myself to open doors for others. And so when I proposed the program that I wanted to come in and do, he said, okay, come in and do it. And I thought, that's too easy now, because I need somebody to really be committed to this, and literally we talked from August through November when he was finally going, are you coming in here or what's happening, And I came in and I realized he was truly, truly committed to doing that. And so people say to me now, you have so much enthusiasm. And I go, who wouldn't? Because now I'm at a place in my career where it's not about whose plane I'm getting on and what I'm doing. It's about me opening the door and saying, come on, Rhonda, come on, Armani, come on, Marlon, bringing all these people in to say, everybody, many of us deserve the opportunity to be in this space. And I can't consume all the space. I don't want to consume all the space, but I want the space to start reflecting the stories that we tell out there. I want the space to start to look like the world we live in, as opposed to walking on, some of the sets and going, wow, this is quite different. This is not what I expected and so forth, So I want to look around and see a plethora of people, because that's a plethora of experiences, of knowledge, of lived, experiences and so forth. And so once I got a chance to do that, I knew I was living. So I tell people now, it's my passion meeting my professional, that intersection together is like no other.
I love it. I love it. We have a question from Lisa Sizon. She says, what is the most difficult part in directing? I'm assuming she means as you guys are directing of your jobs, I'm assuming.
Well, Kwame's a director. Kwame's also an actor too. He's playing.
I know. I was like, the list is too long. I can't list it all. I was like, I can't list it all.
He's an actor. So Kwame can actually talk about the tough part of directing projects she may be meaning.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's separating my passion and vision from the reality of budget and time and production. Like, I've been a producer and an assistant director and had to manage like crazy directors all the time. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, when I become a director, I become that crazy director that needs to be managed. Like I totally forget everything about being a producer and caring about a budget or time or, whether somebody's on fire or not, I don't care. It's, that passion. So being able to maintain that balance between what your vision is and what the reality of your budget and your time constraints and all of that, that's always been a challenge for me.
That's a great answer.
It's the truth, though.
I've produced many.
Man, I turned into a madman. I'm not even
gonna.
gonna lie. I remember I was doing a project for Lincoln. It was like a contest where, you know, we had 48 hours to do this spot for Lincoln, and it was in this contest. And if you win, they play it on the Grammys or whatever. So we had 48 hours to do this, and I remember kind of literally they were trying to stop me because I was on my 21st hour of shooting, and I literally grabbed the camera and ran down the street because I wanted one more shot. And they were telling me, no, it's over. It's a wrap. And I literally just grabbed the camera and ran with it. So,
Oh my God.
like, so it's like, you know, I didn't care. Like, I just, you know, I got to have what I got to have. And, you know, sometimes it's difficult to be realistic about what you can really do.
I love how you said, though, that you know the difference because you've been on the outside looking at the crazy director.
No excuse.
Once you put the crazy director coat on, you know, it's you now doing that role. Yeah.
So all bets are off.
That's funny.
Quentin Taylor asks, how can he get involved if he's not a student? Is there any opportunities for non-students?
Sure. Yeah, we have, and I'm forgetting that this is not just for your students, so I apologize.
No.
We have, go to our website, which is Cinecares Foundation, CINECARES foundation.org. Go to the Mecopoulos internship program on there, and it will tell you our parameters for who we're looking for. It will also list on there community partners that we work with. And we're kind of evolving right now because when I started the program, it was I only took people in from various community partners that I was working with. But now, such as your person that's the viewer that's asking, I'm getting many more people that aren't associated with any of those folks that are coming through. So we're in a pivotal point where we're going to have to try and change our pipeline a little bit on how we get folks. At the very minimum, if you're not affiliated with one of our community partners, then send an email to Cinecares at info at cinecaresfoundation.org. That email address is managed. Tell us, you know, your experience or what you're looking for. And then what's going to happen is when we start to select for our next round of interns and so forth, my resource coordinator will start to call those folks and talk to them because we pretty much know now. We're, like I said, when you're going 90% success, we know what we're looking for and we know what person it takes, you know, kind of their vibe and how they can get along with other people and different things like that. So she'll do a preliminary round of interviews and then she'll discuss with me what she's finding and we'll start to select people to come in. But this is the first time I'm putting that email address out and saying, come that way, because it's just gotten to the point now where I can't bombard my community partners either with getting all these people and interviewing them. And reach out to Kwame too, because Kwame's got a lot of good stuff, you know, that he's trying to do in the city of Chicago. My group that I deal with are roughly 20 to 26-year-olds, but Kwame is actually working to bring about some opportunities for people that go beyond, you know, that age range, but that are in this industry and have some skills or is looking to do this as a new career and so forth for them, you know. So we're trying to cover all the bases. I love it. I always say there can never be too many opportunities. So where I'm going here, Kwame's going here, and we're going to cover all the bases.
I mean, there's it's just a fundamental need for the workforce at this point, even if you just look at it from just a pure economics perspective. You know, an increase in production is going to require an increase in workforce. So the city of Chicago is putting together a workforce training program that's going to be focused on underserved areas. And we'll be looking for candidates for that. Hopefully we'll be able to stand up that program by the end of the year. And, you know, looking for folks that, you know, already have a lot of prerequisites, already have a lot of skills that lend themselves to film production and just, you know, the variety of different types of jobs you can have in a film, on a film crew. it just lends itself to people who already have a lot of life experience doing a lot of stuff that's really in alignment with that type of work.
Love it. I mean, we needed an hour and a half. I mean,
clearly you didn't know how long we could talk.
I didn't, clearly we needed it. We needed it. Again, let me see if I want to get this. Any advice on networking across various crew positions outside of social media? This is Danielle Brooms.
Well, I tell people that never turn down an opportunity to learn anything. I get people that come in and they say, I want to be a producer. And I say, well, what is it that you actually want to do? Well, I want to sit in the edit session. I want to do, so you want to be, this or that, or have you considered this or that? So I tell people, you can never soak up enough, to consider yourself a person that's going to go down one area unless you're working in it. So anytime you get an opportunity to learn something, for instance, our internship is paid, but I tell my interns that if someone offers you a chance to come in on a weekend to work on something and they say, we don't have the budget, but if you want to come in and learn, don't look at it as working for free. Look at it as free education. It's something that you don't have to pay for, but it's a skill that you won't get if they can only hire people that have the experience. So just check out various different things. We only have a select number of departments that we worked with on the internship program, but I tell people, once you're in the room, start looking at those other areas and so forth and see if there's something else you might be interested or your skill set applies to well, because although personally I don't like the whole theory of networking, probably because I've just gotten too old and been to too many things, for the whole networking thing. But I do tell the interns that your network will truly determine your net worth, because in this business, people that know you hire you, people that know your work ethic hire you, and so forth. So your network can never be too expansive for working in this industry. But be curious and try various different things, and anytime there's a little place where you can get in and figure out other areas, do that.
Awesome.
Kwame, what would you add to that?
I mean, I agree totally. Really, it's about keeping your ear to the ground for opportunities and just making sure that when those opportunities pop up, that you're actually prepared for them and you're able to take advantage of those opportunities. And just, you want to stress the importance of interpersonal skills, because, all crap aside, it is exactly who you know that determines your employment in this business. There's no other way around it. There's no, the way that the workflow goes is that a producer will come to town, they will hire a unit production manager. That unit production manager will hire all of the department heads that she or he knows, that they have worked with, that are proven. Those department heads will hire all of the people from the crews that they know, because there's a lot of trust involved. You have to rely on people. You can't, there's not a lot of room for error. So people want to go with known entities. And if they need someone else, then they're going to ask someone that they know to recommend someone that they know. Right. So it's all about creating those interpersonal relationships. So when you get an opportunity to work on a crew, to work with production people, it's all about making those connections and making those interpersonal connections. That's exactly what happened to me. I didn't get picked off of some list. I worked on a job. I met people. I talked to them. They then recommended me for other jobs, and then I recommended people. And I mean, it's just, that's the way that it is. So if you can't really communicate with people effectively and feel comfortable dealing with a wide variety of people and a wide variety of personalities, because there's everything from super nice people to super not nice people in this business. And if you can't cope with that, if you can't deal with cultural differences and things like that, then this is definitely not something for you.
And that's what I tell our interns and so forth all the time as well. And when we say, make sure you come in and you know people, It's not going over and introducing yourself and making sure that everybody knows your name. It's getting and busting your tail and letting people see that, oh, who is that person? You know, and they get to know your name that way. Because as I go out and I speak to classes and so forth, and when I speak to like elementary school students, we're in that microwave society where everybody wants to be famous from day one. They want a Wikipedia page, they want to be Googleable and all this kind of stuff. And they say, well, how can I stand out? How can I make a name for myself? I say, work hard, say what you're going to do and do what you say you're going to do. And they look at me like, she's so old, she doesn't get it, she doesn't understand. And I'm like, that'll never fail you. And I always say to them, if Professor Dow walks in the room and people go, he's here today, okay, we'll get work done, but I'm going to have to micromanage, I'm going to be scared he's not going to get things done. Or he walks in the room and they say, all right, he's here, let's go, we're going to get this done today. Which do you want to be? Well, I want to be the one they get excited about. Only way you're going to be able to be that person is if you work your tail off, if you're dependable, if you try and, you know, keep your eye on things and make sure that you're taking care of things and be proactive and so forth, because people love to have their load lessened by having you there.
We're going to end on that note because that's a high note and great advice right there. Thank you guys so much. Chicago State, Kwame, Ms. Brown, thank you guys so much. I know you inspire some people. I'm seeing some of the what they're saying in the chats, talking about it's a great panel. This was a pleasure for me. I'm humbled. I'm thankful. And Chicago State University thanks you as well.
No
You're
problem.
very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And for everybody else who's left, remember, Chicago State will have a full face-to-face schedule in the fall. You can get all of this in person. Just go to csu.edu and go ahead and check out for the registration and possible, you know, scholarship opportunities. This has been, I believe, the first and hopefully an annual thing of the Black Media Conference by Chicago State University, brought to you by the CMAT department. Thank you guys, and as always, look how amazing you are. Bye, guys.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.